today's darshan was one of the very first people I met when I came to Adat Ariel. The way that it works for a rabbi new out of rabbinical school, which is what I was at that time, is that your job begins on the 1st of July, and pretty much the next thing you know, you're bumped into your very first High Holy Days with a congregation where maybe by that stage you know about a dozen people. Paul came and introduced himself to me sometime in that period and offered to tell a story of his family as part of the Yom Kippur services. And that was how I first came to know Paul Wilder, through not his own story, but the story of his mother and what happened to her in those dark days that Ernie was talking about as well. It is my pleasure and my privilege to welcome Paul to the Bima to speak to us today in a mode that is perhaps a little bit more contemporary. Paul, come on up and let's hear what you have to say about this week's Torah portion.
Deborah, turn it up more.
First of all, I'm honored that I'm speaking at a bar mitzvah boy's bar mitzvah like this. Can you not hear? What I was saying, la la la, was I'm honored to speak at a bar mitzvah boy's bar mitzvah like you, Ernie. That's amazing. Parsha Shoftim is found in the book of Deuteronomy and is the second discourse in a series of discourses given by Moses to the people Israel at the mountains of Moab shortly before Moses' death and their entry into the Promised Land. Deuteronomy contains many themes that are clear. That's a clear reminder to obey the laws of the Torah, its emphasis on monotheism, having one God only, the special and chosen relationship between God and the people Israel, God's attributes of love, justice, and transcendence, and a reminder of the covenant made between God and our patriarchs at Mount Sinai that is now being reaffirmed by Moses at Moab before the children of Israel enter and inhabit the Promised Land. Perhaps the most austere and imperative command that I found at the beginning of the Parsha Shoftim is in chapter 16, verse 20, where it states not once, but twice, justice, justice shall you pursue. The theme of justice runs throughout the entire Torah, but great emphasis on justice is also found within Shoftim alone. It clearly establishes a judicial system for the people Israel to follow, the appointment of judges to preserve the justice, the ultimate importance of the pursuit of justice, and how the people shall act fairly, righteously, and harmoniously in their new land. We find resonating a strong similar warning to act justly in Parsha B'chukotai, which was found at the end of the book of Leviticus, where God warns the people of their choice to do right or wrong, and the punishments or rewards the people can expect for their decisions. The bottom line, one can run, but one cannot hide from God's ultimate judgment of how one acted and lived their life. In fact, it is one's duty and responsibility to reach out to all people to limit their and our sins. As it is written, Yadenu lo shavcha et chadam hazeh, meaning, our hands have not spoiled this blood. The reminder as human beings is not to stand idly by when we see or hear wrongdoing. This directive is aggressively and righteously this directive to act righteously or be deemed guilty of the crime witnessed is in Parsha Vayikra, in Leviticus 5:1, where it clearly states that someone being a witness to some injustice is also as guilty of the crime if they don't act. For withholding fact or evidence for the pursuit of justice is as if they too committed that crime. Rabbi Sidney Greenberg cogently expresses the same when he said, "We are morally responsible for every wrong we have the power to prevent and fail to prevent." Pastor Martin Niemöller, a leading Protestant clergyman in Germany during the Nazi era, said, "Injustice to anyone, anywhere, must be the concern of everyone, everywhere." For whether we like it or not, we are indeed involved. Our choice is whether we do something about it or not, because there are many good people who do nothing. Lately, I have personally witnessed and am grieved at how people and the judicial system, lawyers, have tried to undermine, in some ways, our judicial system. Many do fool others all the time, but the bigger picture is that this too shall eventually catch up with them. For other than escaping earthly justice and letting it run its course, nothing escapes the Lord, who is the final judge. This has resonated throughout. In our daily prayer books, we recite this theme many times and are reminded constantly to stay the course of righteousness. Adonai yodaat mashchavot adam ki chamet chavel. The Lord knows the nature of human schemes. They are futile. Ashrei adam lo yachshav Adonai lo aon ve'en beruchot remiyah. Happy are they whom the Lord finds blameless, in those hearts that there is no deceit. Ashrei shomrei mishpat osei tzedakah b'chol et. Happy are those who act justly and who do the right things at the right times. We are all imperfect, and our personal moral and ethical infractions that seem to accidentally or purposefully escape societal oversight are known to us and to God. Infractions that slip through the cracks of proofs, intentional or not, or by the misuse of our judicial system by intrepid schemes or loopholes, cannot and will not be accepted by our Creator, the final judge who assesses our life's records of events. Yihu lechatzon amrefi v'higion libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart find favor before you, Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Sisters and brothers, it is no coincidence that the theme of justice and the pursuit of it comes at the beginning stages in preparation for the up-and-coming high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The Zohar says that the month of Elul, which purposely precedes the holiest of days, has mystical, magical powers of cleansing. But cleansing one's soul takes serious introspection, self-evaluation of our intentions, words, and actions. This self-reflection is a critical prerequisite before any atonement for our sins are brought to God for forgiveness. Once we understand that the whole purpose of the work of spiritual transformation towards righteousness is for our own good, then doing the work of the Creator is really, really very simple. Life's multitude of distractions and worries sideline or even ambush our real focus to be good. There are courts to decide justice, but ultimately each individual shall be holding their own self-court. For the truths you know existing in your mind and heart is our primary courtroom. I ask that you please consider that the you in justice you shall pursue is the message that Moses gives to all, but how all the more so is the message that is meant from God for each of us and not just as a whole. All rests on personal righteous action so that we can be a good example for others to follow, such as the nation of Israel should be the light unto all other nations. Redemption, our personal redemption, may begin to set the record straight and to obtain true forgiveness and happiness. Shoftim is the first biblical chapter we read in Elul. a time when we look back on the year just past and see what we have done that we need to change. If anything went wrong, however big or small, during the whole year, it's because we didn't do our job in the previous Elul. That is, we didn't do the process of teshuvah, or going back to make amends, or even grant forgivenesses, thereby reprogramming our future correctly. Staying focused, staying connected to the light, and following the primary precept of love thy neighbor as yourself can give others the human dignity we ourselves expect, and only then may we see the Creator's image in everyone and everything. As every year, I will be making my calls to you for redemption and for wishing you only the best. Please expect them and accept them. Shabbat Shalom to all.